Hello and welcome to Next Level Rides. Today's project is Taylor's BMW E92 with a busted brake line. We had to tow it into my garage the other night, and right now I'm trying to get it inside using just the e-brake. Pretty sketchy, right? Long story short, you need to pump the brake to start the car, you need to pump the brake to put it into drive, because as you've seen in the transmission swap, we've gone from manual shift to e-shift. Again, pump the brake while you're holding the e-brake, put it into reverse. Anyways, you get the idea. All right, Taylor, tell them what you did. No. This is you, not we.
When I put a bigger turbo on, the downpipe moved a little bit in position, so I got a little too close to the brake line and melt through the brake line. So the car has no brakes. Good times.
So what I figured is the hot side was a bit bigger because it might be a bigger AR that it pushed it into the brake line. So eventually it rubbed through the heat wrap. When it rubs through the heat wrap, it gets super heated through, just sitting right on the downpipe. So shut it off, it cools, heats, cools, made it brittle and broke. So it pissed fluid all over the downpipe. Great. So now we gotta fix this jalopy. At least the transmission didn't break. I mean, that's a thing.
We should read the adaptations. I'm curious what it's at.
You're curious about that, but you let the brake line explode.
I didn't know that was happening. Even when I messaged you, I was like, oh, should I drive it? It's like, you probably soaked the downpipe with water when you washed it.
Probably. And then it continued smoking.
Yeah.
And then pedal went to the floor. And then it was time to party.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's lift it up.
I don't have a hockey puck on this side.
Hey! I don't need a hockey puck. We'll just not use hockey pucks. You know it's Canada when. Use hockey pucks so you don't end up dinging up your frame. Oh!
The mint hood!
Who put that hood there? Is your jack making a weird noise? Yeah, mine's making a weird noise. You hear that?
What's happening with it?
I bought it used.
I think you're going a little quicker than I am.
I think the spring broke. Oh, your side's way too low.
Yeah.
It's going on a ramp.
The ramp's like a safety thing.
Tony, is this not sketchy that like the one wheel is just doing a wheelie on the jack?
What did you do?
You have the rock underneath the wheel?
What's going
How
on?
did you do that? It's not high enough.
So what it means is it's just not on the jack straight. See? Well, it would help if you had a jacking point.
Yep. Usually that helps.
There we go. Okay. Let me make sure e-brake is cranked. I'd ask Taylor to do it, but he's very feminine.
Always bullies. Tony, can you pass me a 16, please?
Oh, I'm the tool.
Yeah, it's a new role for you.
At least I know where my tools are and I don't gotta wait for fucking ever somebody to hand them to me. I'll push if you wanna.
Hold on.
You have to rotate it. There you go. Oh. That's not the color it's supposed to be.
It's soaked.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
She cooked.
Yeah. Like you didn't notice when it was fraying that it was maybe a problem?
I didn't notice it was fraying. You gotta think when that's in.
That's on the downside.
All right, I guess I need to step in and use my brain.
Come on, brake. Think of things. Come on, brake. Think of things.
Well, now I need to find where it's leaking. So as you can see here, there's a shit ton of brake fluid all over the place. Right around there and up and over here. So right around here is where the brake line was, I'm guessing right here, where it's rubbing against the turbo. And when it rubs against the turbo, like I was mentioning, it likely superheated and fractured the hard line.
No, but I didn't even notice there's two marks on the downpipe. I only saw the big one. There's another one right here.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a heat shield down there. I can see where it's rubbing here. You just need to push it in.
The heat shield?
Yeah, it's right there. Actually, there, I just pushed it in.
Pushed it in or pushed it out?
In. Fixed. So actually, Taylor,
Yes, sir.
you want to reach in, or if somebody wants to reach in and press the brake, I want to see if a little bit of fluid will come out. Whoa, what's up? Did you see it? Whee! Okay, stop. All I can picture is a little kid sitting there holding his shirt, pissing. Psst. Found it. Wow.
Yeah, that is like a pinhole.
That's fucking funny. I'm either gonna fix it or I'm gonna fuck it up. So, what I would like to do, like the proper way to do it, is you cut it before and after where the pinhole is, and you use a flare tool and unions to make it a tight fit with like a barrel and 2 NPT connectors. That's the proper way to do it. The not proper way to do it is, like I'm sure being a pinhole, somebody would literally just put a layer of epoxy on it and leave it. That's kind of ghetto. My thought process is if we cut right where the pinhole is, say the pinhole is right in the middle, and I use a Dremel tool and I cut the line, then both lines can kind of do one of these. So what I was thinking of doing is once it's cut, you can slide them out, but put a hose over top of it. So you slide a hose over top and you bring them back into place, and then you slide the hose back over and you put crimps on either side. That'll probably work because a hose would hold, what, 300-400 PSI, something. And then obviously when you tighten it, you just butt them up. So it's gonna work okay. I think that'd be all right. But I'll see if I have some unions. Maybe I'll just flare it and do a union. But I think that other line goes down to the caliper. So I think we should pull the wheel off just to see if I can cut it, flare that side and flare the other side down lower. If we flare it, but keep in mind the hose is like this, with the flares and everything, it's like a 1/2 inch thick. So then you're running into the same issue where it's thick and it could be rubbing on you.
Well, what I want to do, since we're already in here, is just take this and literally just everything in there.
Yeah, but that's gonna sit right on the downpipe. The issue with this is it was rubbing the heat shield. It's not the radiant or ambient temperature, it's literally rubbing. So it ends up rubbing against the downpipe, and at some point it sits on the downpipe. So when you're pinning it, it'll superheat it to whatever exhaust gets to, like 1,000 Fahrenheit or whatever, 1,200 Fahrenheit. And then you let off and you go into a parking lot, you shut it off, and then it cools, so it could end up fracturing it. I don't like screwing with brake stuff, but we'll make it safe. And well, taillight warranty, so I mean, if you it turns a corner, then
Turns the corner, if I back out.
poof, brake line. I think this is called a coupler. I'm not sure if they call it a coupler. We're gonna call it a coupler. So we're hoping that it's the same size. So you have the cap here. So what you do is you take this piece, you slide it over the hard line, and then I think these are called ferrules or whatever. So cap, you slide one of these over the pipe, and what happens when you crimp it down is it'll actually sit just inside here. And so as you snug the cap on, what it'll do is it'll actually crush and it'll become an airtight seal. So you have it on both sides. This will end up extending it, but it's a bit of a thick boy, so should work. And let me just check. So depending on the brake line, we have some of this stuff. It was the proper ID or OD for an E46 rear brake line. So I think it'll end up being the same. So you do one of these, put that in, you flare the end, so you can end up having a single flare where it just makes it flared, or you have a bubble flare, which is essentially looks like a bubble. Put it in here, and again, as you snug it down, it ends up being weak tight. You can't pull it off. Should work.
When brake line ruptured, it pissed brake fluid over everything, so it burnt some holes into the heat shield or the exhaust strap. So I'm just rewrapping the exhaust in new stuff, so it looks all clean again.
Now we're starting to get into the tools that you never expect to have, like this. Well, here, if you want to show, these are all the tools that you accumulate over the years. Test light, punch, obviously get some files. I think these are called reamers. I don't know, that's kind of wrong, but whatever. And you end up getting step bits, compression tester, taps, adapter fittings, pipe cutter, BMW fittings, O2 socket chaser. When you decide you want to accidentally break your O2 sensor, then you drill it out and you have to chase the threads. And because you need certain things, you get a tiny level in one of these when you can't see something. Get a bunch of those. Get a tire gauge, tire depth gauge. And then you use a caliper here. Electric caliper. These are all stuff you never think that you need, but surprise, surprise. Like even stuff like this. Like when you need to pressurize something. I think that's what, a 1/4 inch NPT or whatever, but it's rubber on the end, so you end up pushing it into a hose or into a fitting, like a vacuum tester. So this is what we're gonna end up needing. This goes to as small as 3 to 22 millimeters. So I'll show you on the fitting here, because one of these ends is cut stupid. So this one has a burr on it. So basically, see you have 2 rollers here and a blade there. So you fit it in here, turn it down, and then, so you snug it up. I'm not gonna be able to spin this by hand, am I? Anyways, you spin it, tighten it, spin it, tighten it, and it's gonna end up cutting an end, just like this one. So you can see it's a bit tapered. So then when you put the ferrule or whatever the hell they're gonna call, once you put it over the end, it doesn't end up having any burrs and it slips in. Well, I guess we get to cut your brake line. Are you done there?
No, I stopped for a minute so I could see you fit the brake.
Okay. Where is the pinhole anyways?
Oh, you want me to hit the brake?
I guess so. I'm gonna have to cut like a chunk out of it. Oh no, I think I see it right there. Right in the middle.
Alright, let me know when you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Stop. Maybe just do it one more time. Yeah. Okay. Oh, do that again? There's a few holes. Holy shit, there's like 4 holes.
All in the same spot?
Yep. I'm gonna have to cut a chunk out of it. Did I ever tell you I hate working in cramped spaces? Like, we could probably cut it with a Dremel, but I wouldn't want to try and clean the ends off, and then you could have burrs everywhere. So it's basically like a carbide disc. Well, maybe it's carbide, I don't know. Just slowly, as you roll it by hand, cuts. There's other ones that you can clamp on and you hold the trigger and it goes wee, 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 and just cuts. Since I don't like doing brick stuff, I didn't buy that. Yeah, just cut. Yeah. That's it. So this, we can obviously manipulate a bit. We can bend it a little bit because it's steel. So we're gonna clean all the powder coating and off this one. And then I need to cut the other side. So we might be able to like extend it a bit or shorten it. So this end, for what I can see, got most of it out. So that one should be okay. And then the other side, we'll cut as long as that this stupid thing is. You want to aim for it to be just like that. So we might need to shorten it a bit, but we have a little bit of room to play. So now it's tricky because I gotta hold the brake line, tighten it, hold it away. So every revolution you can feel it get loose, spin it. So every time you spin it, it slowly cuts in. You feel it getting loose, snug it more. So this brake line goes in behind the engine itself, and it's one piece. So replacing it, you likely need to pull the engine, and I don't feel like pulling an engine to replace a brake line. So we're gonna patch it in the engine bay. Removing the downpipe is a little bit easier. This will stock twins. I mean, this wouldn't happen in the first place, but almost. See the split right down the middle? So let's see if I have something sharp. So if you look here, this coating, any measurement is without this coating. So this is just like a rust coating or whatever it is. But before we go to fix it, we're gonna need to remove all the coating there. Okay. I'm gonna try and use a brass wheel. I mean, scraping it with a knife's okay, but for it to work properly, you don't want to damage the surface itself. Right, if I remember correctly, we use a brass brush or a brass wheel because it won't remove material or not as easily. It's safety wear, so people don't complain. Now I can't see. That's not working. All right, let's very carefully try and scrape it off. Oh, I don't know how I'm gonna get the coating off. All right, brass one wasn't aggressive enough. I guess we're gonna have to try the stainless one. Just be careful with it. Nope. Didn't think I'd need to dig in the bodywork bin for sandpaper for a BMW, but here we are. 240, 80, and 2000. Let's try with 240. She's part of all this is I just can't fit my hand in here. That didn't work. Oh, this is working. I think I got it. So fight with this for way too long. Needed to get the powder coat off it and nothing was working. So I had to take a razor blade and scratch it a bunch of times to keep it nice and smooth. And then take some 240 grit sandpaper, clean it up to make sure there weren't any burrs. I don't want to do this again. So you take one of these, put it on the pipe, and then you find the ferrule. I don't even know if it's called a ferrule, but I'm going to call it that. So you throw that on there. And then this, you throw it so it bottoms out. Okay, so it'll end up being just like that. So now the tricky thing is we're going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to take this cap, I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to find a wrench for those. I think they're both 11, but I'm not sure. Here's where it gets really fucking annoying. I need like 3 hands for this, but I don't have 3 hands. So let's try and clip this out of the way. Sort of, maybe? I don't know. So push this all the way down, and as you pull this in and you start tightening the ferrule thing, will start to center itself. And what we're gonna do is I don't want it to pull itself out. I'm gonna mark it. You know what? Grab me the small ratchet with a shallow 10 mil. Okay, so this is gonna work. So the 10 mil, I'm basically gonna push in. Oh, hold on. Let's get the 11 mil on there. So after a half turn, it starts to snug, and then it actually, like, it's not tight, obviously, but I can't pull it off. Like, I can't twist it, I can't pull it off, I can't nothing. So I'm gonna get this as tight as I can by hand.
Remember, your strength tends to be more than those things can hold.
Yeah, that's why I'm stopping there. I started to feel it twisting. Alrighty, now pop this out here, slide this, see you next Tuesday on there. Ferrule? I wonder what they're called. Ferrule? This is where it gets annoying, because you need to make sure that the pipes are level. So I think I need to bring that one up a bit. It's gonna go in. It's gonna bottom out. Let's turn the ferrule. I'm gonna double check. Ferrule is bottomed out, and the brass fitting is starting to be snug. So obviously you want to finger tighten these just so that they don't cross thread. All right, Ferrule, let's go. So because when you tighten these, there's a taper, so it ends up pulling it in. Ta-da! Go pump the brakes.
Well, should I add some brake fluid first? Because there's literally none.
Sure.
Yeah?
Usually what I do at this point is I'll get 2 11 mils and I'll tighten just the caps on themselves so they'll be equally snug. I'm sure it's supposed to be like 3/8 and something, one tick above something. You know what? I can't even get the 11 mil on there.
That's kind of why I came.
It's snug. Like if I tighten it anymore, I'm going to be ripping it off. Who knows? I'll end up twisting it. Make sure there's no kinks. So realistically, that's kind of how it's going to sit, like that. But obviously, like we can bend it away and whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if you get pressure, a little bit of pressure right away. Pump the brakes. Well, it's fixed, sir. Now you got to bleed it. So you got to take the wheel off, pump, 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 pump. And because it's power assisted, you have to do it running. Well, we'll try without, no, should be fine. We're just getting the air out. The mushiness is it trying to compress air. So it's kind of like compressing like a balloon, right? Yeah, it's moving the air bubble, I bet. So you need to force it out through the caliper.
I'm sure I've pumped it enough that if it was going to leak, we would have known.
Probably. So grab stuff to take a wheel off. I'm gonna brake clean all this. There's no leak from the fitting, so. See, when I pay for it, I can use it a lot. Actually, no, I think you gave me this one.
I 100% did. Does that have a big T on it?
No. So we're gonna bleed the brake, and then we're gonna spray this with like a rust inhibitor, just because now the line is exposed and it's steel, and I don't want to fucking do it again. Per my price guideline, it needs to last to the end of the block when I don't see the taillights, so good warranty. I mean, that's the only difference, like between OEM and this, which I think you're fine with. It cost nothing but my patience and $10.
Easy.
Can you pause it for a second? Oh god!
The money part's the easy part. The patience part?
No, older I get, the patience out the window. You're gonna go pump brakes.
Okay.
So I'm cleaning the bleed nipple. I don't know if they're gonna have an issue with me saying nip the word. So this is Nepal, like the country. So I have what's called a mighty vac. So Taylor is gonna take the cap off the reservoir, and with the mighty vac. Now what this does is this pulls vacuum. So you can see if I plug it, it's gonna pull a certain amount of vacuum here. And then once I release it, it goes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull a certain amount of vacuum on the brake caliper as Taylor pumps the brake. And what I'm gonna do is with this 10 mil nut here, I think it's a 10 mil, let's make sure. Nope, it's an 11. I knew it was gonna be an 11. I was just testing you. So what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna crack it. When we crack it open, the vacuum is gonna pull the fluid through the system here. Wedge this on, pull vacuum. So you can see there where it's actually holding relatively well. So our system here is good, see? And then when you crack it, see the fluid? So we'll go around, we'll crack it open just a little bit more. But what we can continue to do it, and what you use this is we'll get it to be relatively consistent, but the little reservoir will actually catch the fluid. So when it gets somewhat steady, see how it's steady-ish there? Now we'll lock it, and now I bet you if Taylor goes inside and presses the brake, it's probably gonna be a lot firmer than it was before.
Yeah.
Okay, so pump it like 5 times, hold it, and tell me when you hold it.
Okay.
Now we're just gonna crack it, and you can see the air bubbles. See? Big air bubble, and small little air bubbles. So close it, pump it again. Okay, so again, we're pulling vacuum. Oh, crack it. And you can see there's just tiny little air bubbles. But there's air bubbles regardless. Oh, there's a big one. Yeah, there's a big air pocket there. Okay, so I'm gonna lock it. Now, Taylor, if you wanna double check the reservoir, because a fair bit came out, I'm gonna check to make sure it's not leaking up here.
It's in between minimum and maximum. You want me to top it up?
No, it's okay for now. So I'm doing the touch. Dry as a bone. Dry as a dog bone. All right, Taylor. Same thing, pump the brakes. So we have enough vacuum in here. So again, we're gonna open it. See the bubbles? Now that the air bubbles stopped, we lock it. So once the air bubbles have stopped, that's it. So pump the brake and it probably feels like normal?
Yeah.
Yep.
A little firmer than it used to be, actually.
Giggity. holding good vacuum, so there's no leak in between here. We'll just bleed the vacuum off. If you want, we can bleed the other side since it's already up. Yeah, so I'm gonna pull a little bit of vacuum only because when I pull the nip off, it sucks all the shit right into the reservoir. Put the cap back on Nepal. We're done for this side. So, all right, ready?
Pump it.
Yeah, like 5 times, hold it. So we'll just pull a little bit of vacuum, just 5.
Hold it.
So as you can see this side, so when the fluid starts moving, there's no air bubbles. So we're just gonna lock it off, that's it. Oh, there's no air in the rest of the lines. All right, so same thing, you got a little bit of fluid there. Pump up the vacuum. So as soon as you take this off, that's it. Oh, so what now?
Down, keep it back there.
Yeah, he puts the down pipe in. Is your pipe hanging low? Does it wobble to and fro? Hold on. Which way did you have the bracket? This really doesn't matter. All right, so the fitting is there. It looks like it's sitting on there, but what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take the zip tie and you can actually fit it in between. Zip tie fits in between. So even though it looks like it's touching, there's a minuscule gap. And Taylor is gonna monitor it. If it's an issue, he'll fix it. While working on the brake line, Taylor also noticed that his belt was starting to shred, so we decided to replace that before starting the car for obvious N54 reasons.
Oh, start the vehicle.
Yes. If I yell, shut it off, obviously. You wanna step on the brake a couple times now that it has its power? Tell me, okay, press it. Are you pressing it?
Yeah.
Okay, stop.
I can see your face, you ass. I know you have like long enough, Tony.
Well, as you can see, that was an endeavor. So the brake line, we tested it, started it, actually works out pretty good. Doesn't really have any exhaust leaks or anything. And as you probably noticed or saw, so like every N54, we ended up having to do the serpentine belt. So what ended up happening is there was this one coolant fitting just over here. Probably not going to be able to show on camera, maybe. You see my finger? Yeah, right here. So there's that brass fitting that was pointed in the wrong direction, and it started to chew basically a valley, I would say, in the belt itself. So we had to change that for peace of mind because we don't need it eating a belt even though it has a guard on it. Started it, drove it. Maybe Taylor, if you want to explain what you did for the brakes, since we got them like 80% with the Mighty Vac.
When I got back home, it was still a little bit mushy, so I hooked up Pro Tool and just did like the DSC protocol thing that it does. And essentially what it does is it just like pulsates the air out of the system and works good.
Well, I think it's time for E85 and to put the transmission through its paces, because that's a game plan. So
Polish off the rest of this tank and go back to running E for the summer.
that's all for today. Feel free to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.